Okay. So, hi, I am Ruchika Nirwan. I am a practicing child psychologist, counseling professional, and owner and founder of Nirvana-Healing Minds. Today, I would like to talk about stress and management. As we know, the number of suicide rates are growing day by day. So, Nirvana Healing Mind is an initiative to deal and to spread the environment where people can know about mental health issues and they can welcome these mental health issues and help. So today we have our guest speaker Navneet.
Hi.
Uh, yeah. So Navneet Vallabh, okay. Navneet is a practicing clinical hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, corporate trainer, dream analyst, relationship counselor, and psychologist. So welcome Navneet. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for connecting.
Same here.
Uh, yeah, so we would like to discuss about stress and its impact on, human life.
Right. So I guess it is a wonderful, show. I believe that you are hosting this event, and I believe that today many of the people who are listening to us will have a phenomenal insight about what they're going through. And I guess this is the COVID times, and I guess people are challenging. People are challenging areas of their lives, and they're looking for profound insights. So I guess this show is going to give a lot of insights of what is happening in their lives, and probably the topic right now, obviously the stress, is something that is affecting almost every one of us. But yes, the intensity of this stress varies from person to person, situation to situation, and the kind of dynamics that we are into, obviously the family dynamics, the situations that we have, the support systems, and also our own mental makeup. Because I believe if our mindset is strong enough, there's a higher possibility that we can deal with these tough times. Because every experience that we attract in our life will help us to make ourselves feel more better. And beyond all that, we will not only navigate the tough times, but we will be able to leave a mark.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
right. So I want to ask you one more thing. Like when somebody is under stress and they act in a, certain behavior, they engage in certain behaviors, and they might themselves not aware that they are having something, they are feeling something. So how we can, explain it to the people that this is the mental health scenario that you should be concerned about. How we can spread that knowledge.
Okay. I strongly believe that every person who undergoes a stress in their lives, now the stress could be emotional stress, this could be of relationships, stress could be of financial aspects to it, stress could be related to specific experiences of life.
Yeah.
So, identification of that stress is something which is important. If you don't identify the stress, then it appears to be like a mixed stress, mixed bag. People will go through hundreds of events in their lives. We can't treat it as a stress.
True.
They are like challenges in our lives, and every human being has to overcome that to become a functional, to create a functional experience, to live on this planet Earth. But to stress is something where you're losing the plot, where anxiety takes over, where the situation seems completely out of control, where the person feels absolute state of helplessness,
Hmm.
or the person makes over amplified expectations of a situations, which is why the person is not able to deal with that, that moment or that situation. Or maybe the person goes into that phenomena that, okay, only I have got only this one way to go to that track, there's no other way to reach them, and the person actually shuts the door.
Hmm.
So probably as a mental health practitioner, what I believe that hope is something that needs to be cultivated, because every situation has a solution, every lock has a key. So
Hmm.
similarly, we have to look for that key, and
Yeah.
when we lose that key, that's the moment we lose hope. That's the
True.
moment we get
True.
into stress.
Yeah. My next question would be like, so what are the measures one should take to reduce stress down in situations that are arising after this pandemic? Like, a lot of cases are coming up of physical abuse.
Correct.
Married women are facing something, unmarried females are facing something else, and males are also getting impacted by XYZ reasons.
Correct.
So how you think that what measures should one take to reduce this stress?
Okay. See, when we talk about domestic violence, perhaps when you look at the pre-COVID world, the issues are pretty much same. But yes, the challenges have gone up because we are in the closed doors where uh, when a woman forgets the power inside her, when she loses, because I strongly believe femininity is a symbolism of creativity and strength, and it's not about exploitation. So when a woman gets in touch with her feminine power or feminine awareness, that why she is there, what is she contributing, not only for herself, what she's contributing to the lives of others, especially the family, that's the moment she will never feel weak.
Yeah.
It's the moment when she loses the plot, and when she starts looking for a feedback from others exclusively, like for instance a husband, or people who are, or maybe the in-laws or something like that, where she's forgetting her major role or her contribution into the story, and where she's looking for validation most of the times. So when you're looking for a validation most of the time, there are people who might put a certain kind of expectations, and those expectations may not be ethically correct or legally correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I strongly believe women should actually look for or get in touch with the creative self. And whatever they do, they need not look for a feedback,
Mm-hmm.
because they need to come from the belief whatever they're doing the best.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is a violence that is happening, that should not be compromised.
Mm.
It will
True.
not break the family. Let me tell you, when you check the violence, it will not break the family. It will preserve the family. Because if that is encouraged, tomorrow, let's say, when a child is observing, when you have a child or something like that, when a daughter is observing, what she's looking is that how is my mother going through that experience, and somehow she develops a carry forward belief system that all men are like this, all men are like that, or women are subject to exploitation, all these kind of belief system that she gets into it, and tomorrow she might attract a similar pattern. And vice
Yeah.
versa, the boy who goes through that experience will feel that every woman, my father has been abusing my my mother, so obviously I'll also start following their footsteps. Unconsciously the child mimics the father. So which means the woman has a dynamic role to play. Woman has to check what is acceptable in the family, what is not acceptable, because ultimately she is the nurturer. Maybe the man is the provider, he is bringing the things into place, but the nurturer has maybe equivalent or far more bigger role to play.
Yeah.
So when you nurturing the family, which means you are also providing at one level of awareness.
Mhm. But what if she is dominated by, if the person is dominating her continuously, even though she wants to take a step? And because in this pandemic, everyone is inside these four walls, right? And they have to spend some time together, whether they want or
Absolutely.
not. And at times, anger and aggression, it's coming out in some other form. Maybe they it's
Correct.
even screaming or shouting, or doing other kind of physical abuse. And even the female wants to take some step, but she cannot because of these situations. So what do you think, what can be done in this situation? What female should do, like you know what kind of coping mechanisms she can, like, females can develop?
Okay. So first of all, she needs to detach from the situations where the other person will not understand. She should
Hmm.
not look into that situation, at least for, I'm talking about a current situation. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about a situation which is post-COVID world or something like that. I'm talking about a situation where people are indoors at this point of time, where there cannot be a major actions can be taken at this point of time. Because
Hmm.
if you take a major action, there is always a after effects to it, which cannot be technically or practically manageable. So
Hmm.
one has to be wise enough. One has to be mindful enough for the actions and the choices to be made. I strongly believe at this point of time, if there are some conflict provoking kind of situations that are happening, woman should actually withdraw from that situation. She should not be in that particular room or that situation or that particular discussion. At least withdraw yourself from that platform or
Mm-hmm.
peacefully ending that conversation. It is not a compromise you're making, let me tell you, because it's just that you want to keep yourself safe. And probably at a later period of time, you can address this topic. But since you're all at the indoors at this point of time, since because we are all going to this pandemic at this point of time, one should not, create a situation where you can find more helplessness within you. So first is
True.
distraction. Withdraw yourself from any toxicity which is happening. If you feel this is a toxic environment, I need to withdraw myself from the toxic environment. That's point number one. Point number two, if it is a toxic environment, peacefully, amicably end the conversation. Don't look for a win-win situation, because sometimes it won't be the person might not be able to comprehend the depth of your insights. Maybe you can bring that situation at a later stage. Maybe the person is much more cool or calmer at this point of time. You can actually, try to uh, address the issue, but not in one day. You
Yeah.
can actually, even if there are situations which are very much needed at this point of time to address. So you can devote a specific time. Okay, this is the time, let's say 20 minutes or 15 minutes that we're going to talk about it. But beyond that, in the whole day, we will not carry forward a discussion. Because what happens in a relationship, because it's a very intimate dynamic, where the conversations will go on and on
Yeah.
without the productive results. So make sure if you're spending 15 minutes for a conversation, that only 15 minutes is needed at that point of time. There will be no discussion after that 15 minutes. Put an alarm or something like that, but make sure after that 15 minutes, there will not be further discussion. You can have a minutes of the meeting that this is what your agenda is, this is your objective is. Because many times, as mature couples, we don't address the issues in a more correct way. We actually try to shirk away from the responsibility. We try to, okay, ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega, all those kind of things. But the address of the issue can happen provided both are in the more calmer state. If you are not in the calmer state, don't discuss the issue.
Mhm. But when we when we counsel someone and when we say "Ki, okay, you can deal with the stress by doing some meditation, you can do some physical exercise, you can do other things, so that you can feel peaceful and your mind state is like relaxed. So in this environment, this kind of environment, how easy it's going to be for if even I'll say not even for the female but for male as well, to carry on these shows along with other things to balance their basically mental state.
See, when you look at the man and a woman, they are like a wheels of without one wheel, the other wheel cannot exist. So similarly, they have to coexist together in a more dynamic ways. Now, obviously, the relationship dynamic will not be same as the pre-COVID world.
Yeah.
Let's look at the pre-COVID world. How was the pre-COVID world? Before this pandemic arrived, there was a fixed schedule. Even if they were homemakers, even if they were, working women, or the vice versa, how the husband used to, work the situations and all.
Yeah.
Now, in the COVID world, what we are looking is both of them are actually together, like a 24/7.
True.
Now, this is kind of environment nobody's used to it. Technically speaking, nobody's used to this kind of situation, like 24/7 you're spending with your loved ones. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad about it. Everything has a good side, there has a bad side also.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is, when you were in the pre-COVID world, there was enough time to diffuse yourself or distract yourself, so that even if there were conflicting experiences or difficult conversations, you could vent out those emotions, or release those emotions in a more constructive way while interacting with other people, or spending time with other things, or engaging yourself in other activities. Now, what is happening here is, as a couple, you're interacting almost every day. I mean, almost every moment. There is no time, there is no me space is there.
Mhm.
Now, because of that, what happens is, it is your all the emotional conflicts starts exploding. So, which is why in this COVID time, there has to be reschedule. The rescheduling means there has to be a time where both of them are different from each other. They're working into their own space and coming back and reuniting once again.
Yeah.
So rescheduling of their lives is essential in the COVID world as couples.
Mhm.
Because because 24/7 you cannot be in this format. It is not that being together, staying under one roof will enhance the quality of love. It's a myth. It doesn't happen like that.
So, do you think couples should have a common goal of, dealing with the stresses, like coordinating some tasks together, and then basically unstructured things are not going to work on, right?
Correct.
And maximum
Absolutely.
people, married people, they come with this concern, like, this is happening, that is happening, I'm feeling emotionally burdened. So for this
Correct.
thing, if they have a common goal, is it easier for them to cope with the stress?
Right. So any relationship, if you look at it, has to have a common goal. 70 to 80% of the times after getting married, the goals are forgotten. And it's a very painful fact that this happens. Ideally, it should not happen, but it happens, irrespective of the
Mhm.
fact whether it is arranged marriage or it's a love marriage. Okay, during the dating period, it's a different scenario. But when you start staying under one roof, the reminding yourself of the common goal is something which is important. But what
True.
happens is we take our partner for granted. And when that take for granted scenarios comes up, one partner actually feels more burden than any other person.
Yeah.
Now, when the burden of responsibility goes up, either the one of those partner will actually try to suppress one's own emotions and will, uh, you know, start hurting herself, or say, like for women, what I've observed with many cases and all, like women end up having gynecological issues. Like for instance, they might develop cysts and fibroids and several gynecological conditions, which also has a psychological aspect to it. Like for instance, there are cases where women develop unexplained infertility. Like unexplained infertility, there's no medical reason for it. The gynecologist simply says that there is a stress or there is an emotional conflict. Unless and until that is not addressed, there's a possibility that woman will not be able to conceive. And the only solution is going for an IVF. Now, IVF is not a guarantee. There is no doctor in the world
Yeah.
who says IVF is a guarantee.
Mhm.
So, uh, basically, the emotional mental condition is the cause for it. Now, when a woman
Yeah.
goes through multiple cysts or fibroids and all those medical conditions, or heavy bleeding like menorrhagia and all those conditions, there's an emotional and psychological reason behind it. Now, unless and until that emotional turmoil is not addressed, the physiological changes won't happen. So, what happens in this conflict situation when the goal is forgotten? Sometimes the woman actually suppresses that over a long period of time.
Yeah.
When that
Right.
suppression happens for a longer period of time, it ends up in the body. Body is a very sensitive aspect to it. We might look very strong and all those kind of things, but it's a very sensitive
True.
aspect to it.
Yeah.
So that is why we get infected with bacteria and viruses like COVID we are talking about.
Yeah.
So immunity is something which is needed. Now,
Yes.
when these conditions happen, either the woman suppresses, too much of suppression happens, which leads to this. Now, for if it is a man is a victim, for instance, might end up with a cardiovascular problems and all those kind of situations. So when he doesn't express to it.
Even I think men engage in some behaviors like continuous smoking at times, or
Correct.
alcohol, or any other,
Absolutely.
drug abuse types. So they also deal with these kind of stresses with this medium.
But those kind of self-destructive medium, now that's a self-destructive
True.
medium, where like for instance, when a man says that or he goes into drugs, he goes into alcohol. Now, excess of it when it goes, he loses the track. Because one, the economy goes for a toss. I mean, the family's financial dynamic, because there's a
Yeah.
whole lot of money is being spent for alcohol. There's a whole lot of money spent for cigarettes.
Yeah.
Now, if
True.
it is, spent at a, very controllable situation, or a once in a blue moon, this happens, is fine. But if it is something which has become a regular feature, the whole financial dynamic of the family goes for a toss. Like, for instance, if there are families, there are two children, or, one child, even if it's one child, if you look at it, like, for instance, the cost of the education and all those things, how you rear a child, how you grow, especially there are a lot of commitments as a husband. So it's not that the role of a man is lesser or something. He has a dynamic role to play, just like the
Yeah.
woman. Now,
True.
when he forgets his dynamic role, what happens is the family structure goes for a toss.
Mm-hmm.
When he doesn't stand for the woman he loves, when
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't become sensitive enough to help her grow, who is at a loss? The man himself.
Yeah.
Now, there are
True.
very many families when this happens, when man actually forgets that. Same applies to the child. When the man is not able to provide the best of the best to the child and compromises with it. And I'm not saying that the financial struggles and all. I'm saying that the desire and the will.
True. So in both the cases, if you'll see that you said there is a separation, right? And
Correct.
in a particular, like, as the number of suicide rates are increasing, only one generation is getting affected. I am not able to read anything like the old people are dying with the suicide thing, or you know what I mean. Only a particular age group is
Right.
committing suicide. So
Absolutely.
even though they know mental health thing, they can go to any mental health professional nowadays.
Correct.
A lot of people are coming forward and they are providing help, but what is that people are ready to suppress and to give up their life but not to take help? You know what I mean? So how
Correct.
can we actually spread this awareness in people, that they are feeling so blocked that they're happy ending up their lives instead of taking help?
Correct. See, when we look at suicide, it's a very painful fact of life. Same applies to, a situation when a person says that, or when he or she gets a suicidal ideations or thought patterns, where when starts feeling, that my life is over, or I'm not able to make a change in not only for myself but also people who are connected to me. Now, it's a very, very uh, difficult stage of life where one actually loses the purpose of life.
Yeah.
When a suicide actually occurs is when a person feels all the doors in his or her life is completely closed, and the goal what he or she had so far, or the vision what he or she had so far, got completely perished. Now, that is the moment. Even if the suicide doesn't happen, there could be a medically devastating situation when the person loses a life. When the doctors also says that medicines are not responding or something like that. Primarily, that's a situation when the person, the body becomes completely shattered to a point where the life doesn't actually sink within our body. Whatever we call in our own belief system, there is a prana or a soul or whatever, that energy which is us, which makes our heart tick, doesn't want to survive within us. So, which means there's a purpose. So, if we lose our purpose, it's a time where we need to rebuild a new purpose. Many times in life situations, we want to achieve certain things in life, for that matter, in a relationship, for that matter, in professional life, or any other aspects of our existence. But when we are not able to achieve that, we sometimes lose the faith. So that is the moment where we need to build a new purpose altogether. जिंदगी में एक नया मकसद की जरूरत होती है हमेशा. तो वो मकसद जब हम ढूंढ पाते हैं अपनी जिंदगी में, that's the moment where we realize that things can be brought back and suicide can be averted completely.
Yeah, and how can we actually spread this awareness that it's better to take help in the generation, like they're 20 plus, you know 30 plus, till, till 35 age. I'll say that yes, people go with a lot of ups and downs. They go into the structure and then they get back to the unstructured thing. So when
Absolutely.
they don't find a balance around, they lose hope, right? A lot of things they change. They People get married, people get new jobs, people get to shift somewhere, people get
Correct.
a lot of detachment from the family, and at times when they are unable to cope with these things,
Correct.
and they basically give up. So
Absolutely.
what would you suggest, that what kind of what kind of activities they should engage in to get themselves positive?
First of all, I believe that whenever there is a crisis that comes, that's the moment any of the persons, any of the gender, they need to approach a mental health practitioner. That is, over these years, there's a lot of stigma attached to mental health,
Yeah.
which is something which is preventing them from preventing from any ages, any age group or gender to approach a psychologist or a
True.
mental health practitioner. So this stigma has to be broken. Let's say when you have a cough or a cold or something like that, you have a temperature in the body or a fever or something, you consult a physician or a general physician or a doctor. But whenever we go through an emotional turmoil, how many of us actually give a call to somebody who listens to us? Let's say forget about the psychologist for say, but to our own friends or dear loved ones, just to give a call and say that yes, I'm going through this, but we don't actually open up, and we actually suffocate deep within ourselves.
Yeah.
This pattern is what we need to break in our society, because this, we have somehow, we have trained in ourselves, or we got maybe over the years we started thinking that emotions can be handled. If there is an injury in the body, then I need to consult a doctor.
But
Now
there is a
this,
different kind of a
it's
shame
a
when they
different
when they go to
absolutely.
psychologist or a
Psychologist, yeah.
psychiatrist. Yeah.
So I believe that when you get a cut or an injury, it's visible,
True.
but the emotional scars are invisible. So it's up to any person, any gender who's going through at this point of time emotional crisis. They need to understand, let that emotional toxic experience should not become a scar. You
Mhm.
might not be seeing the visible scar outside, but the invisible scar can be more devastating than a visible scar.
But at times, I'm sure you must have also seen there are some people who don't have even have a motivation to take help, even though somebody wants to help them, but they are like completely away from people and places, and they are okay living like in a particular manner. So, what do you think? In at this time, how we can help that person?
So I believe that this is a time, I believe that a lot of psychologists are actually doing, like for instance, but I believe there has to be more actions, there has to be more awareness, talks have to be made, so that the more awareness goes, the stigma and the shame attached to mental illnesses or the emotional crisis that one goes, that can be stopped to a great extent, because we are all indoors at this point of time. Obviously this is the time we are all more digitally connected. So I believe the more awareness happens, a life is saved.
Yeah.
The lesser awareness, we know the conditions what is happening.
And one more thing, one very, very strange thing is like people who can read, write, they know psychology and the other stuff, their mental health illness and other things. They are, even they are not ready to take help. What about villages and the places where virtual thing is not established as well? A lot of
Correct.
females are facing different kind of issues.
Correct.
I'm sure you must have read hysteria
Absolutely.
and these kind of things. So people confuse one state with other, and they left undiagnosed, and it comes into another generation, and basically it's a lifelong, forever stress, I'll say. And
Correct.
how should we prevent a situation from getting too stressful to manage?
See, I always believe ignorance and superstition precedes knowledge and wisdom. And when you go to villages and uh, you know distant villages and all, where ignorance and superstition actually prevents them from living the life in the most meaningful ways. Now I'm not saying the city life is absolutely great, I'm not even saying that. There are a lot of loopholes in the city life also. But
True.
yes, wherever the awareness is missing, wherever the insight is missing,
Mhm.
that's the place there is ignorance. Now that goes for in our city lives. It goes for in the villages also.
Yeah.
So the degree of the ignorance, whichever part of the world, affects the psyche of the people there. Now, when you talk about mental health awareness, there has to be a cross-cultural awareness has to be made. Like for instance, people staying in the villages, or people, like for instance, a woman who is staying in a village, she has a different kind of struggle or a different kind of emotional struggle. A woman who is living in a city, she has a different struggle. A
True.
college going girl has a different struggle, and a girl in her early childhood has a different kind of struggle. A lady in her midlife, obviously the midlife crisis that I'm talking about, she has a very different kind of uh, challenges that she's experiencing. The elderly years of life, it's a very different challenge altogether. I'm not just talking about just a physical challenges like a menopause or something like that, but
Mhm.
also the emotional challenges that one goes through at that point of time also plays a major role.
True.
So every stage of life has to have a different kind of perspectives needs to be built to resolve the issues or the challenges of women who are going through a different section. Same applies to men, who are going through different stages of
Yeah.
their lives. So stages
Right.
of life, cultures in society plays a major role where we can actually help them. So we have to look in the context of the culture. Like for instance, some coming, even not even the culture, but looking over the socio-cultural, even the economic backgrounds also. Like for instance, somebody who is coming from a very affluent societies will have a different kind of emotional struggle with a certain experience.
Yeah.
Somebody who's coming from a middle class family will have a different kind of experience.
Yeah.
Somebody who is coming from a lower sections of society will have a very different kind of experience. Now, for that person, it will be like a physiological needs are not being met. If you look as a psychologist, we always talk about Maslow, where we talk about the
Yeah.
basic needs of life.
Yeah.
So when the basic needs of life are not met, the challenges are different. For a middle class, there's a different kind of experience.
True. Right.
Now, for a higher sections of society, there's a different kind of challenges to it.
Right.
Now, what we need to do is we need to evolve in every stages of life. Now, that doesn't mean that we will become end up to Himalayas after finishing all this. It's not that we need to actually end up and at the age of 60s or 70s that, oh, we need to give up everything. That's not what life is all about. We are bound to live a spiritual life from the early childhood until the old age. Spirituality doesn't mean that materialistic aversion towards materialistic things.
Yeah.
Spirituality means being in connect with yourself, and you're able to establish a deeper bond with others and living your life with your highest purpose.
Yeah.
Many times we actually out of ignorance we start thinking, oh, spirituality means I have to be in a certain kind of attire or a dress or something like that. That's not what the real spirituality is. The real spirituality is walking the talk, where you know that how dynamic your role as a human being is.
True.
Even if we wear the most ultra modern western dresses or an Indian outfit or traditional outfits, that is not something a governing or a guiding factor for a spirituality.
Yeah.
Spirituality is what you are within yourself. That should be reflected in your actions, in your thoughts, and in your ideologies.
Yeah.
I guess that's how we can prevent mental illnesses to a great extent.
True. And in coming years, what do you think? Help should be there, mental health awareness, and dealing with the illness. How long it will take in India to cover those places?
Right. Now, I guess that's a wonderful question. Uh, Time frame, because I believe that, see, there is, when you look at any kind of a science to come into existence, there's no end to it. Like for instance, there was a time when we have used to have a old Nokia phones which used to exist,
Yeah.
right? There used to be very heavy phones, and the keypads were so so tight, just to press the buttons itself. Sometimes
True.
the keypads used to fall out of it. So that was the time But after that, there was a time when we used to have a black and white phones of Nokia and several things, and gradually we are using an ultra modern telephone or cell phones. So, and this is not an end to it. Same apply to digital technologies that we are using, and there's nothing bad about it. Let me tell you, because every generation then we're looking at, it is a one step forward. So from the time of immemorial, when Freud and psychologists like Jung and great pioneers in the field of Jean Piaget and all those child psychologists used to exist, and from the doctors and cognitive psychologists who have been working in this area, it's always a one step forward. It is never a one step backward. So
Yeah.
whatever we are contributing here and in the night right now is going to build a future for tomorrow.
True. Yeah. Right. So, what suggestions you will give, you know, about these coping, developing these coping mechanism, like writing a journal, doing exercises? Everyone, give some kind of input that this will help a person to deal with
Okay.
particular stress. So, what do you think? What kind of activities we should engage in to cope with a particular stress?
I believe that multiple issues in our lives we are all experiencing at this point of time, and there's no one solution for it. For some people, writing an affirmations or writing a journal can help. For some people, talking or going for a counseling can help. For some people, going into the subconscious recesses of the mind, like going to hypnosis and all those kind of things, past life
Yeah.
regression and all those modalities. For some people, going into an active cognitive behavioral approaches, or rational emotive behavioral approaches like conventional cognitive therapies can work. For some people, uh, there has to be a lot of inculcating a lot of spiritual insights can work, depending on this, based on the belief systems that they are coming from.
Yeah.
For some people, like for instance children, have a very different kind of needs and experiences they are going through, so they need a different kind of intervention by a special educator, because the challenges, maybe at times, even if the parents know very well their child, but they will not be able to help. What a special educator can contribute in the child's life, the parents may not be able to contribute. Just like couples who have been married for so many years and fight with each other, they have to go to a psychologist and resolve. A third party has to come into the picture, who becomes an impartial person to help them understand their strengths and weaknesses, so that they can better communicate with each other. So
True.
we need an eclectic approach to look at this situation, and every person has a different need. Some
Yeah.
people are going through, some people want to work with their marriage, some people want to end their marriage, some people are single mothers, single parents, some people are struggling with the health issues, some people, some child, maybe children are having learning difficulties.
True.
So every person has a different challenge. So based on their challenges and based on their needs, there are specific solutions can be given. And I guess there are no problems in this world which doesn't have a solution.
True.
Even if there is a schizophrenic has come to you, yes, the proper medications are there, but the psychotherapies have a major role to play, even if there are
True.
psychotic patients.
That's really true. Yeah. So you're saying like every need is different, but there is not a general, you know, something that people can get help in this pandemic when people are not ready to take therapies, they are not ready to go out or to seek suppose any mental health professional. For them, you have any tips?
See, I believe that even if people are indoors at this point of time, when there is a health crisis that comes up, one should never compromise. The health crisis can be physical crisis, the health crisis can be emotional crisis. Now, what do I mean by emotional crisis? Means the situations of the mind where we are going through, where we decide that nothing is going to work out. Like we all know that the suicidal rates are going up. For that matter, for could be financial needs, could be emotional needs, could be several aspects to it.
Yeah.
Why we should end up the life journey if we have not met our needs? That's my question to all those people who are avoiding mental health practitioners, or who are, running away from contacting a psychologist. My question to all of them here who are listening is that, why do you want to end your life when you have not fulfilled your goals, when you have not fulfilled your purpose? Why not find a powerful approach to win back in life once again, and modify your life visions, or rescript or redesign your life purpose again, so that you become a meaningful entity, not only for yourself, but the trust the family had inside for you. Why why you're thinking to break that trust? Let's focus on rebuilding that faith once again.
Very true. Yeah. Nice. So thank you so much, Navneet, for this wonderful discussion. And I hope
Same
whoever
here.
is listening, they can get a little help, and people can actually, you know, start to seek help instead of getting into inappropriate behaviors, or, engaging in some kind of abuse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. I am hoping to see you
I
again.
guess I am same here, and I believe that the journey for a mental health awareness has already begun.
True.
The COVID times has helped us to look into our emotional needs that we were compromising. So let
Very
this COVID world help each and every person, irrespective of the gender, irrespective of the religion, irrespective of the caste, irrespective of the society, refocus once their emotions and focus to rebuild their strengths with the help of the mental health practitioners. That's the message I would like to give to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Navneet, for this wonderful message. And thank you so much for giving your time.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.